You may have heard the term food web before, but what is that exactly? In this episode of Biology Revealed, we're diving into how energy and matter move through ecosystems. Think of it as the environment's way of keeping everything connected, from the tiniest blade of grass to the top predators in the wild. This is a food web, and it's the way energy flows through ecosystems from organism to organism. It all starts with producers, like plants, which convert energy from sunlight to usable energy for organisms through a process called photosynthesis. Next in line are consumers. We get energy by eating other organisms. Each strand of the web moves energy and matter through the system, one bite at a time. Food webs are complex. They twist and tangle, and they can look very different depending on the environment. So what does this look like in the real world? Let's zoom in on a marine ecosystem right off the coast of Georgia on Sapelo Island and explore how energy flows through the food web there.
On and around Sapelo Island, there's really three dominant habitat types. The intracoastal, which is going to be essentially the open water. Then you start getting into the marshland habitat. Then you also get into the upland forest. And so these are all going to have various ecosystem processes that are really going to kind of drive this biodiversity that's here on the island. The three major elements that biological organism needs are going to be carbon, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Carbon is acquired through photosynthesis, so plants are absorbing this carbon. Then you have the primary consumers that are going to eat the plant, so that's kind of how it moves through the food chain. Then you have the nitrogen cycle, which is really important for protein synthesis, and the only way that we're able to really harness it is through nitrogen-fixing bacteria. And so it's kind of the symbiotic relationship that plants have with the bacteria, where the nitrogen-fixing bacteria are able to take atmospheric nitrogen and then make it into a form that plants can then absorb. Then you have phosphorus, which is an important element for DNA and RNA replication. Phosphorus comes from rocks, and then that goes into water where plants are able to absorb it, and then the process starts there. You have primary producers, and they really get their energy from the sun. As they are conducting this process called photosynthesis, they're really building that energy in order to grow. Bacteria and fungi are going to be the most important base of your food web. A lot of insects are going to consume various parts of plant matter. The most abundant organisms on the island are going to be insects, whether it be from potential grazers all the way up to your predators, which are going to be dragonflies. The most dominant primary producer here on Sapelo Island is going to be Spartina alterniflora. It's just a very long stalk of a reed-looking grass. It can grow roughly about 3 to 4 feet tall. They also have the cell wall where they're able to regulate how they intake water. You have these patches of this Spartina that grows vast, and at certain times of day, because of the changes in tide, they're going to have various parts of the plant exposed. And there are certain snails that'll actually not particularly eat the plant itself, but actually graze on some of the bacteria along those plants, which may also be autotrophic. Then you have crabs that are going to eat the snails. Then there are birds that will eat the crabs. And then from there, the process continues.
Everywhere you look, matter is cycling and energy is flowing from one organism to the next, supporting the incredible variety of life around us. And when you visit the Georgia coast, you can actually see that energy transfer happening in real time. It's like nature's systems are on full display. But Georgia doesn't just have beaches and salt marshes. Head a little inland and you'll find another fascinating ecosystem, the Okefenokee Swamp. Located near Waycross, Georgia, the Okefenokee is home to all kinds of cool and unusual species. We're talking about carnivorous plants. Yeah, actual plants that trap and eat insects and tiny organisms to survive. So let's learn more about this one-of-a-kind swamp from someone who knows it best, Eric Loft, Operations Manager at Okefenokee Adventures.
The plants are the very basic producers. They take in sunlight and CO2 and change that into energy, which other animals can then eat to sustain their healthy lifestyle. In the Okefenokee, a lot of these plants have evolved to get nitrogen actually from being carnivorous plants. They consume other insects as well as small animals through various methods. The pitcher plant has long, tall pitchers that they actually lure insects down in, where the insects are then decomposed and the plants are able to take up that nitrogen. The bladderwort has these little beans or bladders in them that compress and then open up really quickly, which draws water into those bladders, where they then get those microorganisms and actually get the nutrients they need from that. There's a lot of primary consumers within the Okefenokee Swamp. We're famous for mosquitoes. That's one of the big food sources for a lot of birds and other animals. Those secondary consumers are going to be mostly birds as well as larger fish, turtles, snakes. The next one is the tertiary consumers, or the apex predators. In the Okefenokee Swamp, those are going to actually be the black bear and the alligator for the most part, as well as some birds of prey. As energy is transferred through those different levels, most of that energy is lost. So it requires a lot of smaller organisms to actually produce that energy to make it all the way to the apex predators at the top of the food chain. As you go up the food chain, you need less organisms because otherwise the environment or the ecosystem can't sustain itself. And so there's more organisms at the bottom of that biomass pyramid. In different ecosystems, that'll help support the different biodiversity areas that we have throughout our country. We're thankful that we have such a large biodiversity here, but as time changes and as the cities grow and such, all those food webs are going to change. So anything we can do to help support them will help keep that biodiversity throughout the country.
From the coast to the swamp, Georgia's basically a living science lab. Back here in the studio, we've been trying to build our own food web demonstration. And well, let's just say it's a work in progress. There may or may not be string everywhere, a fallen producer, and one very confused apex predator. But honestly, that kind of chaos actually makes sense because real food webs are messy. Everything's connected in ways that aren't always neat and tidy, and every organism plays a role, no matter how big or small. So, ready to build your own food web? Pick an ecosystem, maybe the ocean, a forest, or even your own backyard. Then do a little digging. Well, not literally unless you're into that. To find out what organisms live there. Grab some string, get creative, and connect the dots. Or rather, the species. Before you know it, you'll have your very own food web model and a better understanding of just how connected life really is. Thanks for joining us on Biology Revealed. Stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you next time.